It's a victory. It's a victory Monday here on the KSR Football Podcast. I'm Nick Roush, joined this week by Max Duffy and Adam Luckett, fresh off a big win. 20-17, Kentucky takes down number 6, Ole Miss. It's the highest ranked win on an SEC campus for the Wildcats in school history. The biggest win. I think the last time they did something like this, it was 1947 at Vanderbilt when they were ranked 10th in the country. You see on the banner on the bottom there, Penn State was ranked 4th back when they knocked them off in Happy Valley back in 77. Wins like this don't happen often, so we're just going to drink it up. We're going to marinate in it. We're going to celebrate it because that freaking rocked. That was, it's a high that it's going to take me a while to come down from. Lucky got to see me just buzzing like a bee on Saturday night. We were all feeling good, but I was high-fiving people to Bolivia, just like fist pumping strangers. I mean, it was glorious. Max, have you ever experienced a win on the road as a fan, just as a player?
No. I mean, we won a Florida game a couple years back with Will at quarterback, but we were kind of expected to win that one. This is the first one where we've gone into a game and most people aren't picking us. And they're top 10, and it's just like, these aren't the games we've won historically. And to win that one was unbelievable. Like Snoop said, we finally got a little bit of luck at the end. And a few things went our way that haven't been going our way. And he said we were due, and we were due. We were due plenty of things. We were due one actual fumble recovery and one beautifully designed play of a fumble recovery touchdown. And, a 4th and 7 that we just throw the ball up and complete it. It had me jumping off the couch and I don't normally get into football games very much. Like, having played, it is what it is. You watch and you're like, oh, that was good. That was bad. I was jumping up and down for that Barry and Brown catch. It was unbelievable.
When he said we're due, I just thought of you immediately. It was like, there it is.
So good. It was so good. Yeah. And then when one of the players said after the game that we were doing it for Max today, that was another shout out from them. So I appreciate that. Always doing it for Max. I thought I could give him plenty of motivation like a couple of weeks back against Georgia when I picked Georgia 49-0. And since then they haven't looked back. So I could appreciate giving them that motivation.
We got to get into the minutia of all of the games, like all those little moments, like some of the ones you mentioned. But I do want to paint the scene first in Oxford because it was weird, walking in and there's strangers being like, it's KSR. And I'm like, wait, what do Ole Miss people know about KSR? They learned last week because they were very mad at our boss, Matt Jones. They wanted to go show that they're a real big time program. And even though there was that side of it, I'm walking in the Grove just like, oh my gosh, goo-goo eyes over this tailgate scene, really wanting to get lost in it because it was incredible. But at the same time, it was very casual. Like there was, we're just going to come in and we're going to show up, we're going to beat their ass, and this is going to be the real start to our season. We've had some home wins so far, but this is going to be the real start. They didn't think they were going to lose that game. And for Kentucky to go in there and to suffocate them in that manner, that was as blindsided, as stunned as a crowd. I mean, you could hear a pin drop when that kick was hooked. When we finally got done with all of our work and found Johnny Rebels out on the street, there wasn't too many lights on in those houses, right? They were long gone. Drinking away their sorrows. That pain's going to linger with them, though. It's going to hurt them extra more on Sunday while we were just on cloud nine. An incredible, incredible win. It's the biggest win I've had on the road since that Missouri one, the most surprising. I mean, that was for people who got to go down there, it's going to be hard pressed to replicate that memory. You're going to be chasing that high for a long time because there's nothing like that experience that we had as Kentucky fans Saturday in Oxford?
Yeah, I think just to the beginning of your statement there, I think it was very much kind of a tune-up game for Ole Miss. They had bigger fish to fry this season, playoff team. They weren't really worried about a home game with Kentucky. More so, they were looking forward to hosting Oklahoma, I would say, going to LSU, which is a place they haven't won very often, but they feel like they have the better team this year. Big rivalry game, that matchup. And then, the home game against Georgia is probably the big one they have circled there that felt like, we win this one, no matter what else happens, we're going to the playoff. Well, now Kentucky goes in there, and in the new era, they didn't spoil their season, but they definitely put them in a bad spot early in the year. And so from that aspect, I think, Nick, to your point, I don't know if the fans ever really thought they were going to lose the game.
No.
I think if they would have got down 10 at any point, that kind of panic, you can feel some of those panic moments in the stadium. I think you would have felt that, but it never got to that point. Kentucky could never get the lead out to that point. They hardly had the lead really for any point of time. Anytime they got the lead, Ole Miss scored within a possession or two to either tie it or take the lead back. And so that was they were from that aspect, they were never really behind or trailing that much. And so I think when Barry and Brown caught that football was kind of the moment where the whole, I think, energy of that place flipped.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, no. And then I think an important play in all this that no one is talking about, like it's 1st and 10 at like the 17. Kentucky has stunk in the red zone this year. Like, let's just be honest. They haven't been very good in the red zone. It was not a guaranteed proposition that they were just going to score a touchdown there. They popped the run on 1st down. Like that was a huge play in the game to me. You pop the run, you give yourself 1st and goal at 5. You're going to have 4 cracks to go 5 yards. That's a lot easier than if you're stuck in the high red zone. So that was a huge play in the game. And then they get the fumble up there on the 1st down run and score. And then Ole Miss gets the heave and then misses the field goal. But definitely, I think what was that completion at? Like the 3-minute mark? I think for 57 minutes of football game action and for really 3 hours and then whatever the tailgate time was, I don't think they really ever felt threatened seriously. And then the game just kind of flipped on them. And it was all of a sudden, it was like, oh, they lost. And it's a huge win for Kentucky. And the other big, I think, talking point or thing to come out of this is like the Mark Stoops stats we see every year. Usually it's from other fan bases or people looking to like poke holes at his tenure, right? Hasn't beaten the team with an SEC winning record. Half those games are against Alabama or Georgia. And then he hasn't had a top 10 regular season win, which that one has, like, they beat Louisville last year. People just forget Louisville was ranked 7th, Yeah. People forget that Penn State was ranked high, whatever Penn State was ranked when they beat them. So the fact that he got that in a big moment when I think Ole Miss was juiced up, when they had this team that all this build up, like that's a win I think you can talk about and you can point to. That's a marquee signature win, and that was the one win I think his tenure was missing, and he got that on Saturday. And then it totally flips the script for the season. Like it flips it in a big way because you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself because they do have some toss-up games. It's not like they're going to be big favorites really in any. I mean, they'll probably be close to 2 touchdown favorite against Vanderbilt, but all these other SEC games that are coming down the chimney quickly, they're kind of going to be close to a pick 'em. But if they can win those, Nick, I think in this new era, they're going to play in big games in November. And I think in this new 12-team format, that's all you can really ask of your team. Get to November with a chance to either make the playoff or a chance to really spoil someone's season. And they're going to have 3 of those chances in November. If they can, no matter what, they can play spoiler maybe 3 more times in November. But also, they could be in the conversation if they can. If it's a big if they can handle their business. But they didn't have. You didn't think they were going to have the chance. Now they have the chance, and that's why that win in the picture of this season. That's why that win was so big. It's got like current year positives, but also has big picture positives when you talk about kind of the Stoops legacy, but then again when you talk about this team, And it was just a total flip, and it's what you needed after that South Carolina performance.
And I'm sure we'll get back to the game, but to hop on your point as well, to me, the most important thing that came out of the week and the greatest thing was we played one absolute stinker against South Carolina and one really great game against Georgia. It was like, which team are we? Are we actually the Georgia team or are we the South Carolina team? And I mean, if things go our way, we could beat Georgia and then we go beat Ole Miss. Like, that's the team that we are now. Like, I understand everyone's going to be nervous going into these, Auburn, Florida, all that. Hopefully we can take care of business. But to me, the percentages now say, what is it? 4 really good games, 1 stinker. Like, we're a good football team now. And that was the most pleasing thing.
Yeah, and there typically is a game you shouldn't win on the schedule, and then there's the game you shouldn't lose. We're 5 weeks in our first bye week of the season, and you've already got the game you shouldn't lose and the game you probably shouldn't have won ticked off. So, and that was you're exactly right, Max. We thought that this was more of the Georgia team, but we also didn't know, is that just Georgia's style? Is it only because Kirby's willing to get and play in the mud? And I talked a lot about it before the game, but if you make Ole Miss one-dimensional offensively, that really, that's just, it's something people don't talk enough about that offense. Quinshon Judkins the last 2 years ran the ball 500 times, right? Like, they were just like, eat carries and let us get this tempo rolling, get us a couple first down runs, and then we can start playing fast. They couldn't play fast because they really couldn't run the ball. The only drive where they really moved the ball well was that first drive out of the second half. And they got a couple first down runs in the first drive, of course, of the game. But once Kentucky settled in after that first drive, it was just that their ability to run the ball to start the third quarter kind of got the defense on their heels a little bit. But you had 2 red zone possessions where you only gave up 3 points. You were able to hold them to a field goal. And then JQ Hardaway had that huge strip sack. That they were playing for Max. But the big picture lesson is that this defense is good enough against anybody, right? And they were probably good enough to win that South Carolina game for them if they just fall on one of those strip sacks in the start of the third quarter.
And honestly, looking back now, if we could go back, one of the worst things to happen for us was Southern Miss getting delayed and then, us not being able to play a full game, to me. Because we then go into the South Carolina game not really knowing exactly what type of football we're capable of playing. And I think you saw the drive against South Carolina where we went away from it because we were down so bad. But we found out, like, we did that 11 carries in a row, whatever it was, 11 rushes in a row. If we could have got that full game against Southern Miss to kind of figure out exactly who we were, maybe we play a completely different game style against South Carolina, one that actually suits us, that we played the last few weeks. And, obviously we can't go back and win it now, but it would have changed our whole season.
Whew, man. But they got the win. They got the win. Let's dive into, I guess we can just start and just kind of roll through it. First off, shout out Willie Rodriguez. You want to talk about a tone setter?
Yeah.
I know Ole Miss scored on that drive, but look at the physicality that Kentucky played with. You felt it right off the jump. And I know they got rolling on their heels a little bit there, but that defense settled in, and you could – Ole Miss, they dink and dunk a lot with those RPOs where it's like, all right, Trey Harris makes a guy miss and then goes 20 more yards. Kentucky didn't miss a lot of tackles. I mean, I rewatched the first half, but I mean, D-Jack had a sack opportunity miss, and maybe there was 1 or 2 there on the sideline. But Kentucky took dudes to the ground right away. They got pressure on the quarterback. They didn't give up a bunch of aggravating yards. And they forced Ole Miss to convert on third down, and they didn't. 1 of 10 on third down, 2 fourth-down conversions, so 3 out of 10 times they converted. But Kentucky was excellent. They were physical. They really – Ole Miss hadn't been punched in the mouth all of the year, so Kentucky just kept punching them in the mouth and said, what are you going to do about it, huh? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think it's, again, to the point we're just talking about the run defense. To me, that's known. Kentucky's good at stopping the run. The big question this year was pass defense. And then in a game where you don't have Maxwell Hairston, how do you match up and cover this Ole Miss receiving core? It's got, I think, 3 receivers that will be drafted this year. And Juice Wells, Trey Harris, and Jordan Watkins, and a tight end that will be drafted, Caden Prescorn. So how do you kind of, like, to me, I went in this game thinking anytime they ran, like, they didn't drop back the pass, it was a win kind of for Kentucky's defense. And I think you saw Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss kind of play to that because they believe that too. I think they knew they had to pass the ball because they didn't want to run it against this Kentucky front. To me, kind of the story of the game is coverage. Is this secondary holding up against Ole Miss in coverage? Like, it was very much the Trey Harris offense. And outside of him, they really didn't do much. Now, he was awesome. He's going to be an All-American. And I think he's probably, like, to be honest, he's a 200-yard another 200-yard game away from being in a Heisman talk. Like he's got like 800 receiving yards in 4 games. He's going to go for over 2,000. So other than that, I thought that was kind of the story on defense. And then physicality-wise, yes, I think, again, Kentucky dictated the terms of the game. They made a front-running basketball fast break on grass team that wants to get leads and pin their ears back with their pass rush the passer, and play in a video game. They made them play an old school football game where it's lining up, it's running the football, it's stopping the run, it's not missing tackles, and it's making you earn every yard. And offensively, it's coming after you downhill and running the football, establishing the run, even if sometimes it looks ugly and it's not working, but to get you off balance so they can hit you with some of these crossers with Dan Key across the middle to try to create explosive plays. And so for Kentucky, I think they made Ole Miss play their game. And the way they did that was, the defense gets a lot of credit for that, but offensively, being able to possess the football, being able to get in 3rd and medium, 3rd and short, and move the chains.
Look at the
and that's how they won the game. And they only scored 20 points, but it felt like more than that to me because the offense really didn't let Ole Miss get a ton of cracks. Only 10 possessions for Ole Miss, only 50-something plays. That's not very many plays. That's not very many possessions.
I love we've got Cats interviewing or intervening right now. There's a Tennessee fan that's giving us money to just insult us. So thanks for the money. I hope you enjoyed your bye week. That was the only thing we were missing from a sweet weekend was a loss from the Vols. But to your point on the pass defense, Hardaway was a guy that I liked him as a high school recruit. He ends up at Cincinnati. I liked him. I thought he was great getting out of the portal, and it took him a while. That was a game I didn't know he had in him. Teron Nichols, Stoop said in the locker room after the game when Barry and Brown was on Instagram Live that Nichols dislocates his shoulder while preventing Trey Harris from getting a reception, comes back in the game. Like, that's some stones right there. That's some toughness. DJ Waller, Juice Wells, he's made that highlight catch how many times this year? And Waller is able to get his head turned around at the very last second and break up that pass. Like that is like that. Brad White signaled out Chris Collins. Like, that is some great signs for the future, right? Like, and we don't know what Harrison, how long he's going to be out. When JQ Hardaway saying that he's in the hospital and that he's texting from there, that's not ideal. So, you don't know how long you could be potentially without him. But to have those guys have that moment, you felt like they had some good in them, but to do it against those guys like that was enormous. That was absolutely enormous. Just so that's all, guys. Well done.
And my favorite, there were so many good things that came out of the game, but the favorite video of Stoops walking off, fist pumping our crowd, a few select words for how happy he was. And then, at the very end of that video, you see him embrace Brad White, and he must have just been like, dude, killed it today. Everything we wanted to do, we did. And I love that video for so many reasons, but that was a great little part at the end.
Well, Kiffin mentioned it, Luckett. Pop isn't a guy who, he had 7 tackles, great game. And it makes it harder to talk about the defense when they're just stuffing dudes in lockers and they're awesome. But Kiffin kind of went on about the mentality that he's brought to it. And I think that is noteworthy, important. It's like that was the one thing they'd been missing the last few years was this kind of ringleader, this emotional ass kicker who is he's tackling Carson Beck after Beck gets ready to throw it, and then he's shoving his forearm in his face and knocking his helmet off. That's the kind you got to have some shit to you. You got to go into somebody else's house and you got to rip people's helmets off. Oh, and sportsmanlike, but I don't give a. That's the kind of stuff you got to do if you're going to go take what's theirs. And they went and they took it from that Ole Miss team.
Yeah, I think they've missed some of that leadership and just vocalization stuff with I gotta go here.
There's cats, dogs, everything. Is this Ohio?
Oh man, and Luckett, we go on our road trip. He was doing some work in the back seat. Left his charger in Peak's car, and Peak is in like Georgia right now. Like he left for vacation today. So it's a real, it's a real Monday over at the Luckett household. But
I was got plenty of time to get things back in order. We're good.
Yeah, we're good to snap back. But I was just watching that game last night, Max. And I'm just dropping F-bombs it's 10 o'clock at night. Like I need to start winding down. And I'm just getting so fired up watching this defense just punk their asses. I mean, and that's like, I didn't think Kentucky was capable of having a defense like this so consistently.
Player in the whole country. He's so good.
And the worst part is his stats don't even show how much good he's doing either.
No, because he's just causing so much havoc and getting double teams, triple teams. I mean, they might as well send their whole line to him at the moment. I mean, he's just – and then it just opens it up for everyone else. I think Oxendine had 2 sacks.
Yep.
And
Weaver had 1.
They're all, benefiting off how good number 0 is in the middle.
And, I mean, how many times did there was a time where JJ slipped – and that was a sack, ended up being a throwaway. Or Dart gets tackled for only a 2-yard gain because he's flushed from the pocket and can't get downfield. That's a lot on the defense line. It's also on the secondary too for help. I mean, a lot of those felt like coverage sacks as much as anything. It was a total team effort. One where even the most rosy prognosticators, like I kind of felt like this defense could stifle that offense and really make it hard on them. But I still thought they were going to get theirs. I don't think any of us were like, well, if Kentucky just scores 20 points, they can win. I thought the magic number was more like 27 or 24 or something like that. This defense was outstanding, absolutely outstanding against Ole Miss.
And again, it's back-to-back SEC games now. It's not a one-off. It's not this is a fluke. This is bona fide that we're that good now. I mean, look what Georgia did to Alabama. I mean, I understand that, maybe Kirby is happy to play a little bit of different style when he plays us and all that. But they put up 34 against Alabama. To me, I mean, our defense is absolutely phenomenal and bona fide now that we're good. I think in South Carolina, we weren't able to have field position at all. Turnovers, whatever it's going to be. That's why they gave up points. Now we're going to be able to rely on our defense, and we know that for sure now.
Well, this couldn't be possible either. This podcast, this team couldn't be possible without support from Club Blue. That's you. That's everybody out there who is partnering with the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at UK. And unlike some collectives, this is where 100% of donor money, it goes directly to the student athletes. No charges, no fees, no nothing. You just visit clubbluenil.com. You pick the sport you want to support, and all your money is going straight there. And the best part, too, is it's not like you're just throwing money away. There's plenty of Club Blue perks. Like before next week's home game, a night game against Vanderbilt, Club Blue members can meet and greet with some Kentucky basketball players just outside of the catwalk at Gate 1. Pretty awesome perks. I know they've got some other things cooking with basketball. They're going to have more with football during the season, going to practices, things like that. Just go ahead, investigate them, visit them at clubbluenil.com, and support the Kentucky Wildcats today. You can also drink one for the team, too, where I forget, Kentucky Blue Light. Got some in the fridge right now. It's going to Club Blue NIL, too. So shout out clubbluenil.com. as awesome as the defense was, the offense, they couldn't really run the ball. I mean, they got him early. In that counter run game was with the quarterbacks worked pretty well. But Kentucky had a throw to win, and Brock Vandagriff stepped up. They made explosive plays. The biggest one is one we're all going to remember. But there was a lot of the intermediate passing game, the 8 to 15 yarders that got some big chunks, especially when field position was in their favor, where it made you feel like, all right, we got some wiggle room now. We're moving the ball. Let's keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, I think there's still a work in progress. I think, a lot of the sacks, I think Vandagriff was just him leaving the pocket. A lot of times he had a clean pocket. It was just him leaving the pocket. And a lot of times the balls just got to come out because they were bringing just an unblocked rusher late. They weren't going to let him sit back there and wait for somebody to get open. So ball's got to get out, and there's some areas I think to grow in. But we saw the explosiveness that we've needed to see. And they hit a screen. They hit that tight end middle screen for a big gain to Willie Rodriguez. They hit Dane Key with some explosive plays, some really big explosives across the middle on a lot of dig routes. He had 8 for 105. That's, I think, what he ended up with. Had another huge game, drew a couple penalties, had a really big game. Fred Ferrier on an in cut had a big third down conversion. And then, what was the most frustrating play last year that they ran on offense?
No, the deep go, chuck it up, Devin Leary, chuck it up to Barry and Brown.
The go ball to Barry and Brown. And then with the game on the line, we haven't seen them.
They threw it once before that? In the Southern Miss game?
I was thinking, do you remember them throwing a go ball to Barry and Brown this year? I mean,
it was a post.
Posts.
Yeah, they haven't thrown a go.
Post. So you finally get the go ball to him, and the play of his career, like Brown's play of his career. I think the ball was a pretty good ball by Vandagriff, but Brown kind of hesitated and then created separation late in the route, and then catches the ball and then makes a cut. Like the play of his career, by far the best play of his career. It's not even close. You can argue the Louisville kick return was huge, but again, the thing we talk about with Barry and Brown, he flips games. Like because of his big play potential, he can flip games, and he flipped this one. And so you have to give them credit, and hopefully that helps get them going, because Dane Key said this after the game, like the whole team feeds off Brown's energy. And, it's been a frustrating start for him. And so getting him going is really important, and hopefully this is what can get him going. But I think you saw some good things from the passing game. And again, the South Carolina data point is a big data point because it's only we've only played 5 games. But it gets smaller as we move forward, right? It was a huge data point after 2 games. It was still big after 3, it was still big after 4. But it starts to get smaller. I think in each game you can point out that they've done some good things passing the football. And they created explosives, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not the huge 40-yard gains, but they're getting 15, 20, 25-yard plays. The South Carolina game was just the one that was just a travesty. Even in the Georgia game, I thought they did some good things throwing the football. And so that they're continuing to show us, I think, that what we saw against South Carolina is not who this team is. And I think seeing Vandagriff in his first road start play that way, and not only with the throwing the ball, running the football, I believe he had over 40 yards. I believe he had right at 50 yards non-sack rushing. So almost 300 total yards of offense for him in this game. And it was a big step forward, I think, for the entire offense.
And the one worry coming out of South Carolina was going to be Dane Key and Barry and Brown just being disinterested in this whole season, because we just weren't – how are we going to find a way to get them the ball? And, I mean, Dane Key over the last few weeks, and obviously Barry and Brown had 5 catches, 88 yards. Dane Key had 8, 105. Like, we've found a way to get them involved again, found a way to keep them interested, and that was going to be a big thing going forward.
Well, the part 2 – it felt like they were feeding Berrien more than they needed to at times early on, but you kept feeding him to make sure that he was engaged so that you were able to get the big return on investment in that moment. And that was a huge moment. It was a great pass. The broadcast, I've watched that clip so many times in a row, and to see the Ole Miss surrender Cobras afterwards of just exasperation, it's incredible. The Tom Leach call, incredible. I just keep replaying it over and over. That cut, man, I mean, you just wanted him to get all the way there. And my only issue, Max, is it felt like there was a little deja vu all over again with the last time we were down there. Because Tulloch, it's the point he made earlier, they get down there and you're like, all right, now you got to punch it in. Demi gets the big run, and then Gavin wins it. It happened so fast. I don't know about you, Max. I didn't even know the fumble happened. I just heard the touchdown.
When he made that point at the start of the show, I was like, I thought I was the only one thinking that. I just felt like there's no way we score anyway. As soon as Brown didn't make it all the way in, I'm like, well, great play, but we're not getting in, so we may as well move on. And I mean, a few things again, great run, and then just for a bit of luck on that fumble, unbelievable. And we were due for it.
Due for some fumble luck, because the ball, I mean, it went right to Caddis, and we ran into Gavin's mom afterwards on the rapid reaction, and I can't imagine like her heart just stopped. I mean, it had to have stopped for that moment the ball was in the air. I mean, imagine being that guy gets thrown in, and
the rhetoric would have been, how do we throw that guy in and trust him when game's on the line? You just know Kentucky fans would have been like, that's the worst call we've ever had.
Why didn't you give the ball back to Demi? He just got you down there, and so for that to not be a thing.
Which is still maybe true, but they can't say that now. So.
But fumble luck. You had some bad luck before. You got some good luck when you really needed to then. Josh Caddis was right there.
Hey, and just 2 minutes on it, or 30 seconds, or as little as you want, a good kicker is helping us right now. Like, we may not be punting the ball great, and we may have been back to 38, which I almost tore my hair out when we just could not. I mean, he caught whatever disease it was off Wilson because it just went straight back to 38. But this kicker helps. This kicker is massive for us.
Yeah, and a point on that, another play, Nick, people are forgetting about. Ole Miss ties it at 10-10. Kentucky gets the ball. They put a nice drive together, 2 big plays, but they take a bad sack on second down to take them out of field goal range.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 3rd and 20. You just have to get some yards there to give yourself a chance at a field goal. They throw a hitch to Dane Key. He makes the guy miss. He ends up getting like 15 yards to make it 4th and 5. But even then, that wasn't a gimme field goal in college. It's a 48-yarder. And there was I don't think anybody had any doubt that Rayner was just going to come in and hit that. And he did. And that is, to have that is really, really comforting, both as an offense and as a fan watching these games. Because you just know that if you get inside the 35, it's points. And that mattered. Like, Kentucky made their 48-yard field goal, and Ole Miss missed their 48-yard field goal on the same end of the stadium. And that was a huge turning point in a game that was decided by 3 points.
If you made a Ole Miss joke, good job. Like we all like we get to make them all. One of my favorites, Max, was they don't call them Ole Make.
Yeah, that was good. I saw that one. That was unbelievable. I got a few friends that went to Ole Miss, and they were texting me nonstop throughout the game, and haven't heard from them since. So I'm still waiting on that message and that call back from them. But we'll get around to it at one stage.
Interesting. Rayner was named.
How do they lose to us and not beating anyone, and they're still 12th in the country? Like, I mean, we'll take it because it helps our resume, but I mean, what are we talking about here? How are they 12th?
My favorite is just Louisville still being ranked with, was it Jacksonville State, and they got in Georgia Tech. You beat those guys and you go lose to Notre Dame. Really kind of vomit all over yourself in that loss to Notre Dame too. I mean, I don't know how they scored 31. Notre Dame scored 31 points on only 11 first downs. So, yeah, I don't understand some of the pollsters' decisions. I don't get as worked up over polls as some people do. It looks good when you got a number next to your name. It doesn't bother me as much as it might bother some, though.
It bothers me. I want to be in the top 25. Why can't we? I mean, I get it. Terrible loss to South Carolina, but we've just lost by a point to number 1 team in the country. Well, they were at the time. And so we technically have lost to Alabama by 8 points. That's not terrible. Then we go and beat Ole Miss, who was 6. I mean, why can't we be top 25?
Well, after a bye week and then a victory over Vanderbilt, I think that should probably, as other teams start to fall out, that should probably get you back in the mix for the top 25. I appreciate our friend SEC Mike hopping on. We don't want to walk too far ahead, but he asked if they can shut down Ole Miss. Can Brad White and company shut down Tennessee's offense? And the way Tennessee's Tennessee is actually kind of similar to Ole Miss in that it's up until that Oklahoma game, they ain't really played nobody, Paul. And in that Oklahoma game, the Tennessee offense didn't look lights out. Some of that is the Oklahoma defense. But I am not holding there's something about that team, right? Like we saw it with Arkansas A&M. They are the same way right now. Like this defense is good enough to, but I can't push my chips all in on it just because of that. That's just they've really struggled dealing with that offense over the years. It's one thing Brad White hadn't been able to figure out.
The Ole Miss offense is a coffee with an espresso. Tennessee is a double espresso. They run more of the wide splits and they go faster. And they are going to attack wide open grass more than Ole Miss will. Like, you're going to get more of the switch releases. You're going to get more of the spread and then kind of the deep slant or deep glance routes. Where Ole Miss is more of a modern, I would say it's got more pro style stuff in it, and more kind of traditional RPOs. Tennessee is more spread it out, take our vertical shots, and really try to play with grass. Ole Miss does a lot of that, but not as much as Tennessee. And it's a different type of challenge.
Yeah, but we don't want to get ahead of our skis. There's 3 big games still to come in October after the bye week. Vandy, then you got, Auburn, who lost on a pick 6 in hilarious fashion, and then you travel to Florida. That's going to be 3 big ones. You get the chance to do a Keeneland doubleheader there with Vandy. Big Blue Madness is the night before. So big weekend in Lexington the next time the Cats are up. But it's the bye week, so we get to just sit back, relax, enjoy some stress-free college football, and really just drink up this win. A few more things from it. I appreciated that little sequence before half. Kentucky still hadn't scored a touchdown in SEC play through 12 quarters when they went on that long 4-minute drive right before halftime. And you thought that you had things set up for that, but you needed to convert on 3rd down. And there were some penalties that helped you along the way. But it really, Brock got locked in with Denke. When in doubt, just give it to 6. And it almost cost him. He said after the game that, and if you go back and watch the replay, the play before the touchdown, he had Dingle wide open in the flat, and he missed him. So the next play, So the next play, they actually called it to go to Dingle, and Dingle was covered, so he had to go to Key, who made that great catch in the back of the end zone. That felt like a very big moment to me because they got over that hump. They executed in the 2-minute or in the 4-minute offense. And then on the opposite end, Oxendine got a sack to end the half to where Ole Miss didn't have 90 seconds to go down the field and try to equalize that score.
Yeah, and I also want to note that Bush Hamden really schemed some stuff open in this game. The gadget play on the first possession was an outstanding call.
Gosh.
It was a wide receiver throwback. No one was on that side of the field. Vandergriff had blockers. If he catches it clean, he had a underneath pursuit defender coming, but if he catches it clean and gets a run, it's a touchdown, like a 40-yard touchdown. So he had that. The tight end drag across the middle was wide open. The ball got batted at the line of scrimmage. The wheel route there in the red zone, Dingle was wide open. He really did scheme some stuff open in this game, and I want that recognized. And Kentucky just didn't hit on them. But if they hit on those, the game looks a lot different. I mean, the Vandergrift touch, that was a huge miss. And I thought, we got in the 3rd and 4th quarter, Nick, I kept thinking, because they got 3 on that drive, but that should have been a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And that made you feel like, was that the play where they were going to look back, and if they just hit that play, do they win this game? But they ended up getting the win regardless, but that was a beautifully designed play there. And it wasn't the only one. He schemed guys open multiple times. They just missed them.
You talk about the OC. I want to talk about the HC. I've got 2 key takeaways from the weekend. One, and first of all, I tweeted it out. He genuinely looks like he's learning football when he talks to the refs. Like, he just looks so dumbfounded and like obviously he knows, but he's like almost pretending like he doesn't know football to like ask them the explanation of what's going on. And it's hilarious. And the second thing is, I got a text from him after the game, and I texted him basically saying, "Good job, coach. Great win. Big time." He messaged me back and said, "Miss you, buddy. Love you. Really hope you're getting better. And like, we're thinking of you." Now, for a second, I thought maybe he knew something about my health. He didn't. Clearly, he just saves everyone's first name in his phone. So he thinks he's texting Max and he's texting me. I just would love to see his phone of like everyone just saved just first name, no last names, and I'll just guess who I'm texting. It was so funny. I texted him back and said, "At least you know something I don't, coach. I appreciate it." So funny.
Well, or like if it was late after the game and you've had a couple cocktails,
it was like minutes after. So he's just texting back, just hope it was the right one. So good.
Oh man, we do hope Harrison is getting better. It's it's unclear of what exact his status is. UK isn't confirming anything one way or another. And Stoops didn't talk during his bye week. He will have the coaches show tonight at 6, so maybe we'll get some clarity then. Hopefully he
had a right to be dumbfounded by the way that game was officiated on both sides.
They were bad. You know what else?
Some of the spots were just. I wanted to go down there and ask that referee what he was doing. I wanted to leave the press box and be like, "What is going on down here? Why do you keep spotting the ball wrong?" Like there was one on dart scramble, and then there was a run Demi had. He spotted like a yard and a half short.
Well, there was one in the red zone where he got to the 6-yard line and they put the ball at the 8.
Run. Yeah.
And then there was another one where Farrier, that one, like, okay, close. But I got agitated by that one because Kentucky went for it on 4th and down, and they went quick tempo out of the huddle, and the damn ref wouldn't let him snap the ball. It's like, no. They aren't breaking the huddle till they're done subbing. Like, that was just a failure in operation by the officials. They had a rough day. They had a rough day out there. They missed some calls. And, hell, even that first shot they took at the end zone to Dane, Greg McElroy mentioned on the broadcast, they were pretty handsy. They were pretty handsy there, and the corner doesn't even really look to try to make a play on the ball either. That's the part where it's usually dead giveaway PI. So, a little shaky from the old SEC officiating crew. I also appreciated Molly McGrath asking Stoops what he was saying to the ref. Was it private conversation? What was that?
Keep it between him and me.
Oh, he's so good.
Oh man, I'm trying. It felt like there were a lot of moments. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss any. What else from this game that we haven't touched on yet?
Max, when they complete the heave on 4th and whatever, what was it? 4th and 11. What was the thoughts going through your head at that time?
I thought the same as you. I was literally like, we're not going to score here. Or are you talking about Ole Miss?
Ole Miss, yeah. When Kentucky's up 3, last possession, it's 4th down. You get the overturn.
Here we go again. Like, they're going to make this field goal, and it's just like, how do teams just make something like this against us? And I don't want to be one of those fans where it's like, why is it always us? But it really has felt like that the last few weeks. Like, the fumbles, and like even against South Carolina, we couldn't pick up a fumble. Like, it just felt like, can a ball bounce our way? Can we get just a lucky stop at some stage? And I mean, finally, we get a bit of luck with a missed kick. But before that, it just felt like, here we go again. Like, this is going to be all over. And one funny thing that I found as well, Lane Kiffin, I would love to know his steps and put a GPS tracker. Like, you know how they all wear the GPS and they can track the speed? Put one on him. He sprints down that sideline. Like, when they're running routes, he almost like runs them with him. Like, I don't know how much you see it. I just kept seeing it every single time. Like, they're taking off down the sideline and they catch something. He's sprinting with them. Like, I think he's almost outrunning the wide receivers.
He was really playing up to the crowd too. And Matt took a lot of heat this week for chirping at Ole Miss and their environment and their fans. He was 100% right, especially about just like they had very Rupp Arena lower bowl energy. Because if you got to put a kid on your shoulders and launch a fire extinguisher up and down in the air to get people excited after scoring a touchdown, then you don't have good fans. Like it feels like they got to try 10 times harder just to get people fired up there. That was
the dunk
weird.
thing is the cringiest thing of all time. I mean, I'm so happy we don't do something like that. That dunk thing is terrible. How that's supposed to fire people up or fire the crowd up, like wrong sport, first of all. I mean, I don't understand it.
The only props I like are the ones that are just like was it Eastern Michigan who had the turnover tire, or was that there was another MAC school, right? Is that Toledo?
Well, I cannot remember.
I think it was Toledo.
Which one it was. But one interesting part about that stadium, Nick, and you won't know this unless you go there. It is 50,000, but they aren't on top of you at all. Like the seats very much go up, and they go pretty high on the sideline. So it feels like there's a lot of space to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where at Kroger Field, I feel like you almost feel hunched over a little bit. You feel like more on top of the field. I do think that kind of hurts kind of the noise level there. It just seems like the stadium seems like it should be bigger, I don't know, than it is. It just seems like they're not super on top of you. But again, I think it's kind of a numbers thing with that. It's 60,000 seat stadium. Does not get, super loud. And then again, noon kick, crowds aren't, you aren't as juiced up as you would be at a later kick. And again, I think they took this game for granted in a lot of ways because this season was never about the Kentucky first home SEC game. Like all of these were tune-ups till they got to this LSU game. Like that LSU game is very much gigantic for them. It's a rivalry. It's kind of like what Tennessee is to Kentucky is kind of what LSU is to Ole Miss. Can't ever figure out a way to beat them. Lane's gone there twice, and they've gotten, I think, lost by 20 or 17. They've lost by multiple possessions both games. It's really gotten away from them in both games. It's a team they really struggle. Even with Freeze, I don't think they ever beat LSU at LSU, even though they had the success against Alabama. Like, to me, that was the game they had. That and the Georgia game were the two games they had circled. And then Kentucky, came in and I think stunned them, really.
Oh. Woo! Tastes so sweet. Tastes so sweet. Oh, feels so good. Man, it's hard to, I was hurting, Max, because I get so tense in the fourth quarters of those games, and I can't like scream or yell as a media member. So it's just all that energy is just bottled up, and I'm just shaking, sitting there like tremoring, and my back and my neck's all tight. And then to have that win to just let it all out. The stadium is also really choppy and difficult to maneuver around. So I just jumped onto the field. And when I did, I damn near broke my ankle. Did not land smoothly. Couldn't keep my balance. So I just barrel rolled. Luckett's watching me tumble. I rolled twice before hopping up like nothing was wrong and just getting into a jog and jogging across the field. It was not one of my finer moments, but I was so fired up, it didn't even matter. It didn't matter.
What was for you guys that were there? What was it like being around Oxford after the game?
Oh, man. I was high-fiving every Kentucky fan I saw. One Ole Miss fan, like, kind of cussed at me under his breath because I got in the way of his picture. Idiot Kentucky fans. And I was just like, oh, buddy. Yeah, you're finding a way to cope right now. Enjoy that copium.
That wasn't as good as the two old boys we saw before that.
Oh.
The district. Or the square.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
As we were showing up, they were leaving, and they were leaning on each other. They had food, and they were like, we got to eat this to survive.
They sounded like my 2-year-old and Nick's 2-year-old just got together and were talking. It was just that gibberish. So the lights were out. I think generally speaking, I don't think they were super upset. I really just think they were stunned. I really do think they were kind of in shock that happened. And they couldn't believe it. Like, did that really just happen? Our
Uber driver was he was having a moment.
No, he was pissed off. Yes.
I'm wearing some Kentucky gear, and he's got Georgia Alabama game on, Max. And what'd you say, Luckett? Like he asked us how our night was.
So we're doing better than Kirby Smart right now.
And he
good
just
icebreaker, I thought, because everyone wants to see Georgia lose, and I didn't get a peep out of him.
Oh, he was stoic, couldn't talk. He was in having himself a moment. It was also a weird crowd too, because it was it Parents Weekend or homecoming?
It was homecoming, and then there were some, I think, sororities and fraternities had Parents Weekend this weekend.
So that made for an interesting scene too, Max. There was some older single parents who were they were aggressive, win or loss. So you had to be wary of those.
And the covers were out of control.
Oh yeah, even the empty bars are like $40. What? This place, there's nobody here.
Yeah, last time I went there, I think I paid $150 to get in somewhere, which I don't know why we did that, but we did. So me and Miles.
The seeing the Kentucky fan like that's my favorite. Is just you're just running into strangers. Well, and it's like your best friends. I mean, the people I talked to, it was so much fun just going through the win and like, oh man,
I've said it before. Like, it genuinely, like, I felt like we hadn't seen that genuine joy and happiness from Stoops for a long time. Like, yes, we've had some big wins, but like he was back to Missouri final game, like so final play of the game, touchdown, jumping, punching holes in roofs. Like he was crowd surfing again. He was firing the crowd up. He was loving it. And like, it was just so good to see him back, and almost felt like he was back invested and fired up and, just part of the program again and loving it. I mean, that little picture that we've got down the bottom right corner of him is the best.
And you know what I think it is, Max? This is you got my hamster wheels turning in my head now. It's because they did it playing his football, right? Yeah. Like it's almost, he talked all off season about getting back to playing physical, hard nose. He senses that the Kentucky football that made him successful kind of got away from him the last few years. And as we were talking about, I mean, Peak was going to make a video of it, but this game kind of bookends that deal where it's like things kind of started to unravel down here in 2022. And then to come back here 2 years later, play the way you want to play and beat their ass. That's how you put a plug in the leak in the dam, right? That's how you patch things over. This is an enormous win for so many reasons, but it really, I think, validates Stoops' belief that we can play this way and win in the SEC.
Yeah, there was also looking back in hindsight, a lot of rat poisoning being served up by the Kentucky coaching staff in media settings last week. Just talking about Ole Miss like they were just
the greatest show on turf.
The greatest thing since sliced bread. Yeah.
Oh man, we got Lane with his own juice, with his own stuff, a little taste of his own medicine. It was a win unlike any other we've experienced. We're going to be celebrating it for a while. We're going to talk more about it on 11 Personnel, but I do want to ask Max, going some other games, who should have won Friday night, Virginia Tech or Miami? Was it a catch, a touchdown, or interception? / incomplete pass?
You talk about like the old NFL's rigged, and this was college football's rigged. This was like, we want to keep the good team winning, and like, I know maybe, I don't know if that actually happens or not, but if there was ever an example of that happens, it was right then. Like, that was a touchdown. Right? Like,
I mean, the ball goes in the air. That's my issue. Like, if you see the ball go in the air, it's hard for me to say that was a touchdown.
It was hard, to me. It was too hard to overturn it, and they overturned. If that's roles reversed, it doesn't get overturned. You can't tell me it gets overturned if it's roles reversed.
Which is why they shouldn't have to make a call when they can't see. They could not see what happened. Just go to the video. Like, why do we have to make a call on the field? They're just guessing. Like, they were literally just guessing.
Yeah, and that's why like to your point, Max, and I think it's the strongest argument against it is just you have to have indisputable evidence over what you ruled on the field, and it's murky if you ruled that on the field. But like when you see it on replay, it doesn't really look like a touchdown. So that's the part where having that rule on the field did feel like it gave a higher burden of proof for Virginia Tech to hold on for that win. But I'm not going to be too salty about that. Both those teams stink. The ACC is a garbage league. They don't play real football there. Like the defense there, I mean, I think like what's the most points an ACC team could score against Kentucky? We're going to see one at the end of the year. Like 14? That's too much, right? 7? 10? Could an ACC team even score on Kentucky? Because that's a real defense. That's not some patty cake bull crap that they play over there. It's so bad watching that football.
I mean, the over-under would be 0.5. 100% 0.5. I mean, that barely even scoring on Notre Dame. Like,
it's also like watching that game and then watching the Saturday night game. I mean, they are playing different sports. Miami's going to get a bye into this playoff, and they should be an underdog whenever they have to play an SEC team in the second round. You know, like that. How were you watching the Georgia-Bama game, Max? And could you believe it? Did you turn it off halfway through like some of us may have?
So listen to this, right? Wi-Fi goes out at the house because of the storms. So I'm looking for a place to watch this Bama, like Georgia game. And I don't want to go to a bar or anything. I just want to sit down, watch the commentary. I hit up all my buddies. Everyone's at a bar watching it. I'm like, I'm not going to a bar. I want to listen to the commentary. I like to sit there, watch the football. So I hit up someone, go to their house, and you'll laugh at this. Get there and they go, oh, I don't have that. I don't have that station. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, I don't have that station. So I no joke, watched Chimp Crazy for 2 episodes, right? And after Chimp Crazy was done, there was 5 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, this game is getting so close. It would be so good to watch it. And the person that I was with said, haha, actually, I do have it. I just didn't want to watch football. And I saw it was disrespectful. I saw the last 5 minutes of the game, which, to be fair, was the best 5 minutes of the game. And I still caught all the, Georgia touchdown straight into Bama touchdown, all that kind of stuff. But maybe the angriest I've ever been.
It was almost as preposterous as our scenario where, we had to find a weird bar to kind of go to. In this bar, it had some like Memphis Blues guitar going on. Like there was a band there. They were good. And I was like, all right, $10 live band. Sure. Well, they had turned the TVs off at the bar and because the band was playing and they wanted people to pay attention to the band and not the game. So I've got my phone out. Yeah, I had it out on my phone. We're watching on the bar. Because Luckett just was like, dude, Georgia just scored. They might come back. So I pulled it up. When
they cut it to 5, yeah.
And he's just like, this is ridiculous. Like, you were not a very happy camper. And fortunately,
I don't understand the logic.
Fortunately, we were like, hey, I was like, bartender, do these TVs work? Like the game's going down to the wire here. And so he turned it on, and I think we saw the Georgia score right before the Ryan Williams score on the TV and didn't have to watch it on the, tiny little 9-inch phone or whatever. It was
I'm glad to know I wasn't alone then in not being able to watch maybe the best game of the whole season.
You're a bar on a college football Saturday in a college town, and you're not just going to have football on? What?
Yeah, unbelievable.
But hey, we got to see the end. That was insane. Ryan Williams, pretty good at football. So
would have rather maybe with our results seen Georgia win or Georgia like trounce them maybe. But to be fair, I'm not a big fan of Georgia, so I prefer Bama to beat them any day. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not.
Carson Beck throwing for 500 yards. I think Kentucky should probably feel good about their standing.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. It was a wild weekend. One that was punctuated by Kentucky's win at number 6, Ole Miss. We tried to get to everything. We probably left a few things out. Whatever scraps we have left over in the heap, we will certainly sift through on 11 personnel. Wednesday night, we'll hear from Mark Stoops on the call-in show, Sunday at 6. And, one more thing. AARP Kentucky. AARP Kentucky. There's a lot on the line this election, from protecting Social Security you've earned to supporting family caregivers. You have the power to make the candidates listen, because voters over 50 decide the elections. That's why AARP Kentucky has an election guide with the most up-to-date information about when, where, and how to vote, to make sure that the candidates hear from you. Get trusted information at aarp.org/KYVotes. That's aarp.org/KYVotes. Paid for by AARP. Big shout out to that sponsor. Big shout out to you for following along today. Incredible show, incredible weekend, unbelievable upset. Just winning on the road in the SEC, it feels so good. They need to rack up a few more big wins at home for some of those season ticket holders, but going into somebody else's town and stealing a win from them when they don't expect it, it's just, I want to get drunk on that feeling and just stay on that feeling, because that was a great moment. And Max, we punctuated it too. We just walked home through campus on the way back, and having that long walk and just kind of like, this is our house.
Obviously I was a player not that long ago, but as fans, we haven't felt that way for a long time. I feel like we've had a few good wins here and there, but I feel like we haven't really had that feeling for a long time of like, we're good, we're back, we're feeling ourselves a little bit. So I hope we can keep it going. I really hope this is turning the season around, and like it said, hopefully, back in the season, we're going to be in some real big, meaningful games now, which is going to be so awesome. Like, we were ready to declare 3-9 after South Carolina, and I was ready to turn Kentucky football off and just stop watching because it was looking bad, and I didn't want to talk about it with anyone. And now I can be back talking about it, and there's nothing better.
Feels so good. We're back. We're all the way back like we never left. We'll be back with more on the KSR YouTube channel. Until then, that's Adam Lucken and Max Duffy. I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.